Your home for our Atlanta Falcons, Hawks, and Atlanta United. Your teams play here. Sports Radio 92.9, The Game.
Listen, we asked you guys yesterday, are our Falcons going to be ready for week one? I still don't know if they will be. I am going with my gut, and it is that, yes, we'll be ready. But now we know what this team's going to look like, Mike. And, you know, you get past the preseason, the next thing is this, and that is the final cuts. So today at 4 o'clock, literally 20 minutes ago, teams had to turn in everything to the league, and this is where we're at with the Falcons, Mike. And, you know, we're just gonna read a couple of these names because I think some of these names you'll recognize, some you won't. But they release offensive lineman Jonathan Harrison. That was a guy that we maybe had talked a little bit about. They also released, or they waived, should I say, Parker Hesse, tight end.
You and I were just talking about that, and I guess, you know, and it's funny because when we're at practice, we always joke around about Carl and I sitting on the hill, and Carl goes, bum, buster, done. A guy that, you know, he doesn't look super athletic compared to some of the, obviously, we got elite talent on offense, but I'll tell you what, John Fitzpatrick made plays. John Fitzpatrick made some tough catches.
He did.
And he made catches in traffic, and I guess he's doing what they're asking of him, you know, when he does get on the field as far as, you know, for special teams. But, yeah, the former dog, who was the other tight end, makes the cut.
It does. We're carrying 4 tight ends, right? We got Michael Pruitt, we got Kyle Pitts, Jonnu Smith, and John Fitzpatrick, who Mike just mentioned. Is it unusual? Maybe, but I don't think so for Art's offense. I think that's part of why he likes big tight ends and what he wants to do, especially in the run game. And here's the thing, Mike, John Fitzpatrick can block. That's another thing he's shown. One guy that was waived today, and Mike and I were just having this conversation internally here in the studio, and that is a guy we said when they drafted him out of Georgia, Justin Schaefer, offensive lineman.
Right.
We thought that he might have a shot to do something. Mike, he never popped.
I got to be honest, and we interviewed him because isn't it Cedar Grove? He and D'Angelo Malone both came out of. And they just, for some reason, I thought, wow, you're going up against that amazing Georgia defensive line. Different animal up in the NFL, but I thought he'd have a chance to really, you know, pop, and to your point, and get a chance to be at the bare minimum a rotational guy, a backup swing tackle or something. Nope. So I just tweeted out the numbers. I'll say this for Terry Fontenot. You and I were just talking about it. He's not afraid, unlike his predecessor, to cut bait, Carl, on guys he's drafted.
No.
So that's a 4th rounder in Darren Hall, who also gets cut guys from the secondary. Jalen Mayfield was let go earlier in the weekend, and we just talked about Schaefer. So that's 3 guys in the last 3 years from draft picks.
All right. We talked about Slade Bolden at practice a couple of different times. One of the surprises, and I just hit Joe Patrick because Joe was there every day, and we'd be talking, and he'd say, man, this Ali kid is pretty good. And he says once Hodge went down.
Josh Ali.
Yeah, Josh Ali. Ali was working on being the 4th wide receiver, and he accomplished that. So he makes the team. Here's the deal, guys. When you talk about Dukes and Bell, who are our guys? Well, obviously, you know Desmond Ridder, Logan Whiteside, Tyler Heineke. Those are our quarterbacks. Bijan Robinson, CP, Keith Smith, and Tyler Algier, running backs. Ali, we just talked about, Mike, and this is in no particular order. We're just giving you the names.
Right.
Drake London, Scotty Miller, Mac Hollins. We're talking about the wide receiver room, and Cordero Hodge. Now, even though he got injured, he's going to make the squad. The tight ends we talked about were carrying 4, Mike, and then the O-line. Chris Lindstrom, Dahlman, Jake Matthews, McGarry, right? We know all the starters, but Matthew Bergeron, Kyle Hinton, these are guys, Ryan Nuzil. These are guys that'll be those swing guys and backup guys, and Joshua Miles as well on that offensive line.
And for those who remember, Josh Miles played in the league for the Arizona Cardinals, so he's got some experience under his belt. He hasn't started games, but he's been on the NFL roster now. He's made NFL teams going back to 2019.
And then on the defensive side, guys, pretty easy, right? Calais Campbell, Onyemata, Grady. We've talked about a lot. Taquan Graham, Zach Harrison.
Joe Gaziano, because we were talking about, was it Horn, Timmy Horn? You were kind of, Chris, our producer, was saying, I kind of thought Timmy Horn was going to make the squad.
Well, obviously one of these guys outplayed him. Or at least in the coach's eyes, right? I mean, there's a reason why these guys are here. A.J. Terrell, Clark Phillips, DeMarco Helms. Helms makes the squad, guys. Surprise? Not at all. He was making plays in preseason. Right. He practiced that way. D. Alford, Jeff Okuda, obviously coming off the injury, but we'll see him. Jesse Bates, Dahl, Richie Grant. These are all guys you're familiar with. So, Mike, the talent is there. Linebackers, Arnold Ebiketie, Bud Dupree, D'Angelo Malone, Caden Ellis, Lorenzo Carter. These are all guys, you know, some of these guys are rotational guys. Troy Anderson. But I like the roster.
Yeah, and we'll see. I'll try to get the information for you in the Falcon Report about it and who's been kicked forward or back to the practice squad. 16 players get to go on the practice squad. You get a chance to protect a few of them, unlike in years past. Frank Ginda, so much for the 2023 USFL Defensive Player of the Year. But he got cut. That's one of the dudes that they brought in late when Michael Walker got cut earlier this year.
We know the kicker, right? Young Wei Koo.
Yep.
And
Pinion can bomb it as a punter.
Boy, he's got a leg. We have to turn the field around. As long as we protect, we're going to be all right doing that. It's Dukes and Bell at Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. Just keeping you updated, guys, on where this roster is and now as we move forward. Because the next thing is, the coach is going to meet Mike with these guys, and he's going to say, this is what we got.
Right. Our team is here.
This is what we're going to win with, And I believe in all these guys that are here. And I think there's been a buy-in for this team. We've talked about it. I know some of you guys are not buying in on the idea that we're going to be a lot better, and Mike and I believe that, but I do. So now we know. 53-man roster. All right, guys. As far as some of these guys on the practice squad, Mike, and again, you're trying not to show your hand with that because those guys, obviously you want to develop and you don't want them to get away. And that is part of this. Once you do this, there are certain guys that are not going to be back because other teams are keeping eyes out, and they're watching everything that's going on as well.
Yep, and I know that I thought maybe, and just because we looked at the offensive line and the guys that we mentioned, New Zealand did a really nice job, backing up Dahlman. They did not trust, the other guys. If it's true what we were hearing, that Dahlman and Chris Lins were banged up, and that's why we didn't decide to go with the starters on offense, at least for one series against the Steelers. But you got a Pro Bowler, Lindstrom. Bergeron, I think, is answered the bell. Some guys said to us earlier this year, why don't they just make Bergeron the guy? Well, you still got to earn it. And they weren't just going to say, hey, we drafted this guy second round. Hennessy's been here 4 years. But no, we're not just going to anoint Bergeron the dude. But I got to be honest. Didn't you think Bergeron was a guy like the third practice in pads? Well, even with the learning curve.
We were there the day the injury happened.
Right, with Hennessy. And, it was one of those deals. I forget who it was, Mike. Was it Jake Matthews? Somebody jumped in his face with Matthew Bergeron and kind of got him like, hey, let's go. Is he the Lindstrom or Jake? It's going to be like a pep talk.
Yeah, it was one of those guys. And from that point on, I just believe he continued to develop. And, he's going to be challenged, guys. All these guys, they're rookies. He's going to be challenged. Right. But he's got the talent to do the job. And that's really what we've been looking for.
Some guys are hitting us up on the text line because Cordero Patterson is listed on this depth chart. Does that mean they're not going to put him on any kind of IR and everything? So
no, these are just the guys that made the team.
Right.
Just look at it from the standpoint of these are the guys that made the squad. And as far as what this looks like in how many days we got, Mike? 12 before we play?
Yeah, 12 now. Yeah.
Okay. The week of game week for us, right, will be, the week of the 7th as we're preparing for our first opponent in Carolina. And they've been putting in work on that, guys. But that's when we'll start to try to figure out what this depth chart officially is going to look like until the Falcons put it out. But this, just the guys that made the squad.
Yeah, man. Now, Godwin Igwebuike, that's a dude I'd love to see on the practice squad.
Running back.
I like him. I think that, he was like a bowling ball to Miami. Now, again, Miami game was 2s and 3s versus 2s and 3s, so got to take it with a grain of salt. But he got waived, so we'll see where he winds up. And then, again, Schaefer, maybe Schaefer comes back, but right now he is cut. Schaefer from Georgia, as we talked about.
Is there a better tight end room right now with Smith, Pitts, and Pruitt?
No.
Seriously?
No. You got the dynamic part of the Pitts thing. We've talked about, just – and again, you didn't get to see as much of him because he was banged up a little bit with Jonnu Smith, and just what an element that's going to be, and how just dynamic. I keep coming back to that word because it's the only word to describe what we're going to be doing on offense. There's no nepotism, there's no favoritism. Tyler Vrabel, Mike Vrabel's son, who obviously hired, was the head coach, and our coach was his OC up in Nashville, so he got got.
Well, again, this is what I like about Art. Give me the best guys. I'm going to play the best guys. You can't preach that, which he has since he's gotten here. Mm-hmm. No matter how much money you make, all right? That's what he's been saying.
All right.
Doesn't matter what your relationship is, go earn it, and then I'm going to play the best guys. I love that. That's what you need in a coach. There shouldn't be any favoritism, and we've said this. Whatever you think about Bill Belichick, there was never favoritism.
No. If
you could play, you were on the field. If you couldn't play, you weren't going to be out there, and that's where we have to be.
Some guys still think we're a little thin at linebacker. You mentioned Tay Davis and Nate Landman, so maybe that's another they kick the tires on. But again, we're not privy to the things they're looking for, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a chance for, Troy Anderson's a guy for me who's really got to make the move. We already seen Ebiketie show signs at the end of last year. We also knew he was a little bit banged up last year. But those are some dudes in the second round in the last 2 years that really got to pop.